What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Manor Rd Studio, the A.L.I.V.E.podcast. And if I recall right, several weeks ago I told you that I was going to be recording daily. Well, lots happened between now and then. I've been back in the hospital 2 times. My kidneys decided to get crazy on me, fever spiked, and so forth and so on. Right now I'm feeling good, so it's time to kind of get things back in high gear. I watched a video last night of a girl named Amy Brooks. And if you don't follow Amy on YouTube or Facebook, I would highly recommend that you do. This is a girl that was born with no arms and no legs. But yet she does everything that we do plus a heck of a lot more. So just to watch her is so inspiring because so many times we get caught up in pity parties of things that we can't do because of this, that, or the other. And here's a lady that has the deck stacked against her, but yet she's still thriving. So it goes back to the old saying, what's your excuse? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But do check out Amy Brooks on Facebook or YouTube, and I guarantee you'll be inspired. Well, a few weeks ago when we were on here, we were talking about several things that are passionate to me, one being like religious recovery. People that have been hurt by various religions or hurt by church. We're not talking about people that just go to church, get tired of going, blah, blah. I'm talking about people that have really emotionally and spiritually been impacted some negative way by their church. And I'd love to hear your experience. Send me a message on Facebook or Dale Childress at iCloud.com. I'd love to discuss your situation here on Facebook, or on my Manor Rd Studio Live podcast. Because it's so important that we recognize that this is real. And I also want to talk to people that are maybe going through a stage 4 terminal illness as I am. Because there's so many things that go through our minds that maybe other people can't necessarily relate to. Of course, not to discount people that are with struggles of their own and the crazy things that are going through their mind. But if you feel of anything that's holding you back, pushing you down, something about your identity that you just feel like you can't be your true authentic self, let's discuss it. You can private message me. You can send me an email. I'll be glad to share it on our podcast. And we won't use names. We'll just use it to open up the discussion because I guarantee you, whatever you're facing, other people are facing the same thing. So another thing that I want to talk about is self-esteem. So often, I see and talk to people that they are struggling with, their self-image. And all too often, we place ourselves on what I call the discount rack of life or the clearance rack. But we're so much more than that. The problem is when we start getting down and we start devaluing our worth, other people pile on. We're all looking for a bargain. And when you become a bargain, other people are going to treat you as such. So it's time through this podcast and just through your interaction that we're going to start elevating you so that you know without a shadow of a doubt that you're God's greatest miracle. And the only thing we got to do is help you believe it. So again, whatever you're facing, whether it be physical, spiritual, emotional, it doesn't matter. If it's something that you feel like you need to get out, then we want to hear about it. Heck no, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm nothing professional, but I got something a lot of people don't have. I've got a caring ear that wants to hear what you have to say. Why? Because what I just said is I care. And that's something we don't see much anymore. I want you to know that you're worthy. You're not on the clearance rack of life. You're somebody special. You're endowed with the seeds of greatness. All we got to do is make sure those seeds are watered and that we hoe the weeds. That's our obligation to you, and your obligation to me is to make sure that we get the best out of each other. And the only way we can do that is hoe the weeds around us. Now, I want to go back for a minute before we call this thing a day. And I want to share with you about religious recovery. That's a topic that's really, really near and dear to me. And a lot of people would go, are you struggling with your faith? Absolutely not. I'm not struggling with my faith at all. Matter of fact, I think my faith and spirituality is probably at an all-time peak. And I only foresee it getting better from here. And for me, and I'm only speaking for me, is I had to set aside doctrine and dogma for a little while so I could find the real God inside of me, I guess you could say. A lot of people don't agree with that, and that's fine. Um, I have nothing against people that are thriving in their religion, because churches do so many wonderful things. I mean, without churches, you wouldn't see all the benevolence going on in the community. You know, you see from potlucks, people raising money, prayer chains, yada yada yada. There's a social network to church that's extremely important, but it's the religious ramifications that I have to admit that I struggled with, and I feel like a lot of other people do too. You know, so again, if you have a story that you feel like needs to be told or something you need to get off your chest, you know, I want to hear about it. And then I guess the last thing I got to tell you is, hey, I've been playing with cards a lot. You know, I knew I needed to get a hobby, so I thought, man, I always wanted to do, you know, sleight of hand. Now, that's what's called a dribble. I know it's funny, I'm no good at it, but I can do a one-handed cut, you know, simple things like that. But I love sleight of hand and misdirection, because that's the way we live our life. You know, we're always misdirecting people, and people are misdirecting us, and the media sure as heck is misdirecting all of us. You know, they have their own agenda, and they want to make sure that you don't hear the truth, you hear the agenda. That's called misdirection. Sleight of hand is doing something that other people don't know they're doing, and you're coming up with an outcome that they didn't predict. It's fun with cards, but in real life, maybe not so much so. So we'll be careful of misdirection and sleight of hand, but every now and then I might show you something that I've learned, because it's kind of cool. You know, it was something to do. So if you have a hobby, again, that you want to share with us, talk to us about, please let us know. You know, we're working real hard to get the Manor Rd Studio and the A.L.I.V.E.podcast going. A.L.I.V.E., A-L-I-V-E, A.L.I.V.E., authentic, love, imagination, victory, and evolve. We've talked about all of those before, but we're going to talk about them all again, you know, because it's something. And the toughest thing is the dadgum A. For some reason, authentic is just not something we can all do. You know, I remember, oh gosh, I'm going back 13 years when I started writing my blog, Childress at blogspot.com. You know, if you want to read some of the blogs, there's over 600 of them there. But I couldn't be authentic. I would start writing on, okay, I'm going to pour this out from the heart, let my real mind, you know, come through on the pages, but I couldn't. I found myself writing what I felt like other people wanted to hear, or I was protecting the authenticity inside of me. You know, so many times people go, hey, what you see is what you get. And that's absolutely untrue. I'm calling you out on that. What you see is not what you get. There's somebody dwelling inside of us that nobody sees but you, and you struggle with what you see in the mirror because you can't be the authentic self that you want to be. So A is authentic, and we're going to work on that. L is love. Now, you would think when I say love, I'm talking about love for humanity, love for others. And that is very, very important. But A, number one, is love for yourself. If you don't love the person staring back in the glass, then there's a big problem, again, that we've got to correct. But the only way to correct it is to talk about it, get it out in the open, and start sharing. And this is a good place to do it. I is imagine. I'm going to tell you, if it hadn't been for imagination, we wouldn't have these phones like this. If it wasn't for imagination, a microphone like this wouldn't work, or a Mac Air that I'm using right here wouldn't work. Imagination is what creates the newness and the freshness and the awesomeness of our society and our world. You know, I look at my own self, stage 4 metastatic cancer, but yet the imagination of somebody to come up with treatment plans that have kept me alive is just fascinating. So we've got to make sure that we tap into your imagination, because there's so much more inside of you than you know and the people around you know. But the fact is, what you do know is you do know that there's more there. You're just afraid to be authentic enough to get it. And I understand that. V is victory. You know, so often in life, if you put a 2-column thing up and put victim, victory, you'd be amazed at the people that use victim mentality to try to get attention. It's a terrible thing to do, and it's a total waste of who you are. Just an example of victim mentality. Think about this. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, whatever the dadgum social media outlets are, have you ever seen or done this? Hey, to the guy in the blue truck that just cut me off in traffic. You're not talking to the guy in the blue truck. You're talking to people that validate your victim mentality and leave you a comment like, oh, honey, you tell them. There's nothing to gain in victim mentality, but there's everything to gain in victor mentality. And the last one, E, is evolve. And that's what we plan to do with Manor Rd Studio and the A.L.I.V.E.podcast, is all evolve together into the wonderful being God created us to be. I want to tap into your potential, tap into what makes you who you are, but what can bring the greatness out of you and elevate you to somewhere you never thought you could be. So A.L.I.V.E. is what we're going to be talking about in nearly every podcast, and look forward to it. So again, Manor Rd Studio, A.L.I.V.E.podcast. Unless I go to the hospital tonight, I will continue to do more of these. I don't plan on going to the hospital because we got a lot of things to do and a lot of things to talk about. So anyway, good to see you again. Stay with me and check with me more often, and keep those emails and those messages coming.